One of the most divisive elements of my D.B.T.S series has always been the "Where else have you seen" section, where I point out all the intellectual properties that were ripped off by the game being reviewed. Well, for those of you who don't like that section of D.B.T.S, be forewarned, there isn't a single component of Mafia the Old Country that wasn't ripped off by something else. It is the most derivative game I have ever played. We're going to do this by the book, so first, let's talk about the graphics. I'm not going to lie here, the game is beautiful to look at. It was made in Unreal Engine 5, so that's expected. Gorgeous environments you just want to stop and stare at. Character models that look amazing, until their mouths move anyway. Wonderfully crafted vehicles, and horses and weapons, and oh Christ, it's UE5 and the frame rate is garbage. This game can't maintain 60 frames per second to save its life, and it doesn't seem to matter what's going on at the time either. You could be moseying down the road on horseback, listening to exposition drivel, or going top speed in a car while baddies surround you with bullets flying left and right. Frame rate going chug, folks. Frame rate going chug. Doesn't matter if it's on a high-end PC or PS5 Pro, embrace the possibility of 60 frames per second inside a building, 30 frames per second outside, or a total 5 frames per second slideshow, cause all bets are off. The sound effects are all realistic and well done, and the music is expertly crafted, but let's be honest here, none of it is anything you haven't heard before. It's all trying to sound like The Godfather 1 and especially Godfather 2. I commend the musicians who brought it to life, but the composer played it as safe as can be. Had the game opened up with Dean Martin singing "That's Amore," my eyes would not have rolled any less. The voice acting is a definite standout. There's no clunky performances or fake-sounding Italian accents here. Every performance is grounded, realistic, not hammy or campy at all. You hear the hate, the love, the heartbreak, the jealousy, the insanity, and the anguish in every line. These folks clearly thought they were performing for a top-notch AAA banger because there's no AA fluff here at all. Every performance is trying for that Dorito Pope trophy, and if this were a just world, every performance would win one. And then, my friends, there's the gameplay. Good God. First of all, they've decided to pretend Mafia 3 never happened. Thrown out all the gameplay innovations that title brought to the series, and they've taken things straight back to Mafia 2. You have a great big open world with loads of eye candy, but no reason to explore it, and even fewer actual opportunities to do so, because just like Mafia 2, it was all built to house a linear 12-hour storyline and nothing else. Oh sure, a couple hours in, the game gives you your own apartment, a base of operations, but you use it for nothing. You still start out 99% of the time at the Don's mansion. There's a villa where you can buy new weapons, new enhancements, new outfits, cars, and so on, but unless the mission you're on requires you to stop there, you won't be going there much. Not unless you forcibly break off from the mission path and travel out of your way to get there. There's a few side activities like taking pictures or finding collectibles, but again, you have to break off from the mission track it's wanting you to follow to get to many of these. It was later announced that a free ride mode DLC will eventually be added that gives you more story side quests and races and other things to do, but this should have just been part of the damn game to begin with, so you had a sense of progression to your character during the main story. As it stands, it feels like they intentionally released the game unfinished. At least they had the sense to only charge $50 for it. They knew what this was. Every component of the gameplay is lifted from something else. The stealth is the same stuff you've done in Hitman or Assassin's Creed, but dumbed down to the level of the stealth you've seen in the Uncharted series. Most of the missions are sneaking around, figuring out the walking pattern of the enemies and which route to take, what order to take them out in and when, and so on. You have crates you can hide the bodies in, but they're pointless because there's only one or two routes you can take that are potential perfect runs, and if you take those routes, there won't be anyone alive to find the bodies you leave lying around, so why are the boxes even there? And can someone please explain to me why a mafioso from the early 1900s has the see-through walls radar from The Last of Us? Gunplay looks like Uncharted, but feels more like the indie ripoffs of Uncharted, if that makes sense to you. These are all old guns, so to attempt realism, there is ridiculous recoil and inaccuracy galore. It doesn't help that every enemy, no matter where you hit them, eats bullets and keeps coming back for more. I've had guys charge at me, and I've hit them 4 times in the heart at point-blank range with a shotgun, and they've just kept on a-coming. The gunplay is so bad, I avoided using it whenever possible and instead tried to use stealth, a gameplay style that I hate, as much as possible. Now, of course, this is a Mafia game, so there's racing missions. You have car races and horse races, but unlike previous titles, these races are overly scripted. You have to really, really screw up to lose these races. They're built for you to win, with sort of reverse rubber banding going on throughout to make sure that you do. No, you can't immediately leap to first place as soon as the race starts. It times everything out to make it feel like you're slowly getting the upper hand, but once you do any replaying of the game, the illusion of it is instantly shattered. One really wacky element of the game are the knives. Mafia Old Country loves its knives. So much so that, for whatever reason, the dev team decided to make every single boss battle a knife duel. And yeah, it's just like you're imagining it. It's almost like rock, paper, scissors in a way. Oh, you can go all in and go aggro and try to brute force a win, and sometimes that does work. But what it wants you to do is slowly sit back and watch what the opponent does and react. You can dodge, parry, slash, and stab, and there's specific visual cues that clue you in on which to use when. When the opponent does A, press this button. When the opponent does B, press that button, repeat. What it really reminded me of were the one-on-one boss battles in Uncharted 4, but just with knives instead of fists. Which is actually pretty funny to watch as they play out, because it's like watching a sword fight, but with knives. When in reality, the first time your opponent made a wrong move, you'd be stabbing them 1,000,000 times a second like a Marine on Deadliest Warrior. Now, it is true, there was a knife dueling culture and tradition in the old world Italian mafia, particularly in southern Italy in both the Neapolitan Camorra and the Sicilians, but by the early 1900s as depicted in this game, it wasn't nearly as prevalent, replaced mostly by firearms and explosives. Yes, it still occurred in the old country in this period, but to have every chapter end in a knife fight when everyone and their brother was carrying shotguns, pistols, and rifles? Come on now. The plot is pure cookie cutter. It's lifted right from The Godfather Part 2, mixed with a little bit of the origin story of Il Duce from the Boondock Saints 2, and the tired old Romeo and Juliet forbidden romance trope, right down to riffing on the ending of fellow Romeo and Juliet ripoff James Cameron's Titanic. The story structure, in a way, feels very similar to Red Dead Redemption 2 in one specific aspect: its repetition. If you've watched my review of that game, you know I had a serious problem with it because the same thing kept happening. Someone would let Dutch know about a new score, a bunch of planning would take place, someone in the gang would either screw up or betray everyone, it would turn into a total fustercluck, and the gang would haul ass out of town and mosey on over to a new town and do the exact same thing over again, rinse and repeat. Well, with this game, the components differ from mission to mission, but the end result is still the same. You get in a knife fight, and even though you survive and empty the boss's life bar, it then switches to a cutscene of the defeated boss suddenly getting the upper hand on you, and just as Enzo is about to be killed, someone swoops in and saves Enzo's ass. Every damn time. It was downright demoralizing. I'd be straight owning the dude, and then I'm suddenly on my back with a knife at my throat, only for someone else to come in at the last minute and rescue my stupid, never learning from previous fights ass. For real, who wrote this shit? What is the point of this? It feels like you never get any better. It feels like you're useless. It feels like someone is always having to look over your shoulder. Who wrote this shit? Nobody. That's who. Because all of the story elements were ripped off from other media. So much so that to do things in my usual way would take forever. So screw it. I'm rapid firing this shit. Where else have you seen everything you see, do, or hear in this derivative patchwork piece of shit? That's right, and it was still exhausting. Mafia the Old Country gets a 4 out of 7, and it should be thanking me for being that generous. Smoke if you got 'em, I'm out.